Hi Sonia, welcome back to my art channel. Today I'm going to do a quickish video on how I like to use Inktense blocks. I've been thinking about this for a while because I suddenly became aware, like you sometimes look at your shopping history. I was like, oh, I've had these for 3 years and they've been one of those art supplies I've had, I guess, mixed feelings on. I initially got them because years ago in the UK, I got a little set of I've got them somewhere and I do take them away with me for travelling. The pans, you can get the little pans, and it was a really good deal at Cassart. And I'd seen Urban Sketches using them, and I like the fact that when you use them, they're water soluble, but once laid down, they should be permanent and they don't sort of reactivate. So you can go on top with, your ink pen, and you're not going to get the paint lifting off. Then I saw these on a really good deal, or a good offer, which is why I have this quite large set of the blocks. And yeah, I haven't researched them too much in terms of watching other people's videos. I've watched a few in the past, so I'm sure how I'm going to show how I like to use them is pretty much the same as everybody else. But I'm just sharing. I just want to get them out again for my own benefit as well, and have a think about how I can bring them into work more. Because one thing I will say that I think is quite, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this, good about them, is hopefully I assume that they can be quite pricey. I do get that, full price. As I say, there's sometimes keep an eye out because you can get good deals, but I feel like they're going to be long lasting. They don't feel any different in terms of their quality to when I initially got them. As you can see though, one thing to say is they are quite fragile, these blocks, and they do break easily. If you want to know what they are, I'm going to read off my laptop the AI overview on Google. So Inktense blocks are made of a pigment-based water-soluble ink. They're essentially solid sticks of pigment that can be used dry, like crayons, or with water to create washes. And yeah, I guess one of the unique things are the fact that when it's dry, it should become permanent. So it kind of, allows for layering without affecting previously dried layers. And, they say you can use them dry or wet. One of the things I would say, as someone who has tried them both ways, so, okay, this is one, talking about how I've been experimentally using them. This, I would say I used, luckily, this is why you should make little notes on your sketchbooks. I used a brush, yes. This is when I purely used them as I would almost like, you could say, just get the pans, because I used a brush. I wet the, I've got some paper so I can sort of play about as well. So one of my main methods with these blocks, I have to be honest, is almost using them like just a very large pan set. And I was just using them straight onto the paper with a brush. And as you can see, it doesn't take, look, they are good quality. I would say it doesn't take much water to get a nice, intense, they're called Inktense as well, intense wash. So I like that. I like saturated colours. That works well for me. And then I also here, can you see, is this in shot? Okay, no, it's not. At the bottom, because it's a sketchbook, I play about as well. Here you can see it's dry. I would argue, I sometimes wonder, do people use these dry? I would say if you're going to use them dry, it's almost like, why not have a soft pastel? But then, one thing I do like about them is, if you've heard me before, I'm a little bit sort of certain tactile qualities in materials that I like, and I don't love hard pastels because of the scratchiness, whereas actually I don't mind. These are quite a nice soft on this mixed media paper. They don't feel, so I've got rid of a lot of my hard pastels. They don't have that sort of, they're quite soft, but part of me also thinks you could get that effect with a much cheaper, in some ways, soft or hard pastel. So it's more the water solubility that I'm sort of going for. Here I am dipping it. You can use them. One of my fun ways of using them is just to dip them, being a little bit, probably, I assume it's a bit wasteful in some ways, just dipping them straight into the water. And then you get a really solid, like I can show it here, into the, then I just put them back. I don't particularly treat, oh my gosh, I'm grubby. I don't particularly treat my art supplies too reverent, like, they're here to play around with and be used. So that's, as I say, that's another method that I commonly go to. And then you could draw with them. I also like to draw with them and then sort of utilise the water soluble properties. Where did I... So this is also more recently, while they've been on my mind, I dug them out from landscape work. So yes, I really enjoyed the qualities of them here in this very mixed media landscape. This is from a sketch, which is what I love to do if I really want to loosen up on landscapes. And to be fair, it's mixed media, so to be, you know, transparent, I can see patches of Japanese watercolours, almost a metallic one. But I didn't use much of it, and I went straight in with just using these Inktense blocks and a lot of dipping them to get that sort of, that wet, very solid sort of effect. But then as you get the sort of dry, I guess sort of like dry brushing, because then obviously the water wears down and you end up with these sort of lovely effects. And yeah, I experimented then with going over with a brush and reactivating them. Now, should we see, so one of the major things is obviously they're meant to be permanent and not lift up. Pretty sure. Well, to be fair, I use this dry, so, but it's not, as you can see, I assume if I went over, there's a little bit of, to be fair, lifting, but on the whole, they are, as they say, they are, I feel, different to watercolour. Okay, so that's that sketchbook. So I want to play about. Oops, let's move that out of the way. That's something to do with what I'm doing. Just a few other examples of, yeah, this was fun as well. I wanted to test them out. We could actually do something like this quickly. Test them out with I love doing altered sketchbooks at the moment. It just feels so freeing. If you really want to loosen up, a quick tip is if you've got any old books that are falling apart that you're probably just going to end in the recycling bin or being pulped, why not just use it as sort of like, you know, like you've got cheap copy paper, like just to muck around with, but there's not a white page, so you can get right in and cover it up. So let's, what I want to show is I wanted to use an old scrappy brush. They are quite helpful let's keep to the landscape theme. I'm just going to, have I got any up on my wall? So what I like to do sometimes is put some of sketches up on my wall, something ahead of me, just to use as inspiration and then sketch from. I really should change them around though, so I have varying inspiration, but also so here we go, I'm just covering up. I don't mind that you can still see the text a bit. That's fine. I know full well if I really wanted, would you play about with these sort of altered sketchbooks and covering stuff up? You learn what mediums are going to completely obliterate your sort of underneath text versus. So I'm not going to spend long on this. I just want to show you that they are. I think there might be a fun tool in this type of mixed media sketchbook, and I can then, what I could do is then go on top of this. I mopped it to one side, just let it dry. And we'll see how that lifts, but making a start. And here you can see that I've just come on with it. I think it's the same Inktense, but with just drawing, so using a dry as a crayon. Okay, now what I wanted to test, and I've been also testing them out. This is just dipped in dip it in water on a little bit of cheap watercolor paper, testing out. That was just quite fun, really loosening up. Now here, this is my little notebook, which is quite mixed media as well for abstracts. I love coming here. I've talked about this before, I think, on when I sort of review art I made in the week. It's just really, I did it a lot actually over weekends when if you're full on in a lovely way, maybe you might be doing things with your family, but you just want a little bit of time here and there for yourself. You can, it's just really fun. So, but I wondered, I don't think I've used Inktense in it, so let's try. It's a square grid notebook. My anticipation is that What should we use? Let's use some brighter colours. I don't think this sketchbook would take watercolour, like very wet watercolour. Well, I just want to test it out. So this is me, as you can see, I'm just using it like as if I've got a whole load of, 72 watercolour pans, I guess, in a way, but not watercolour pans, as you probably would use the little paint palettes. Which may, if you want to be economical with it, probably is a better way of going in some sense, because you can mix. Obviously you could also, it comes with a little mixing tray. I haven't got it to hand, I'm sorry. But it comes with a little mixing tray, so you could then mix more colours. Okay, but now this is going to be to play with an abstract piece, and I'm going to try and just keep it to Inktense. Who knows, I'll probably change my mind. So I'm going to go in with just drawing. I'm just trying to remind myself, don't overthink this. Play about this. If I really don't like this page, I can come back to it and cover it up with some fun collage. I want to have a little bit of like, I'm not thinking about any outcome. There's more to test the different materials and the properties and try and, I guess, show you as well in case you're interested. So again, we can go for the dipping the block, wetting it. I will also show it in a mixed media fashion as well, hopefully, once some of these bits are dry. See, this is, I think, quite, for me, satisfying, why I am enjoying them. I really like that, the strength of colour. I feel like that does have, in terms of watercolour pencils, actually I've got some Inktense, I probably don't have a good quality set, but I never really hugely got into watercolour pencils because I just think, oh, they're a little bit wishy-washy. Whereas I tend to like strong immediate effects. But as I say, I don't know why with these, using them as actual blocks, so they are quite, okay, they are very, I would say, maybe I'm heavy-handed, rather crumbly. I think that's fair to say, but I feel in some ways compared to some, they are quite smooth as well. But yeah, I assume if you're a real pastel or you're probably just going to go for a hard pastel. But these are, as I say, are very versatile, and you do get, and then there's the fun of mixing in. So you can obviously mix the colours on the page. The other benefit to this that I've been utilising, actually it's in my kitchen sketchbook with the pencils, is that what I like to play about with is actually I keep with the pencil some of it as a drawing. So you've got the scope of the ability, well, you can draw with a paintbrush as well, but you've got the ability to sort of more draw, I guess. They're like chart as you would with a Conte crayon. Maybe I'll try and do a little flower on this tester paper underneath, because obviously this is all abstract. Just looking at the mark making potential. And as I'm more increasingly into sort of like enjoying abstract work, I can see that actually, as I say, a few years ago, I sort of got them, and then I was a bit like, oh, I don't know if I should, like, I wouldn't get them. Would I get them again? Well, I mean, I think they should, I don't need any more, but, so, I think if they're a good deal, for sure, in some ways, I do think they are a fun material, a fun art supply. So I'm really hopeful that these are good quality, and thus will have longevity. So it's not like and I am using them more, which is good. A lot of the time this is the problem. It's why I always, I think I made when I did one of my mind map videos to give myself some inspiration. Well, it's like what I like to do is to have art supplies on my desk, and then obviously you can't have everything on your desk. We've all got probably, you know, I'm quite lucky, I've got a big desk here, but limited space. So I do make the effort of sort of putting some back into a drawer and then getting things out. I like everybody, if you've got stuff hidden away, and you've only got like 10 minutes, 50 minutes here and there, you're probably unlikely to go, sometimes you just want to get going with what you've got. See, this is quite, you do get a fun wash. As you can see, on very thin paper, it is what it is, but this is just to test it out. Okay, now let's go on to this sticker paper. So this is drawing paper that I use. So I've got this idea, what I'm going to do with you guys, so for myself, is what I've been making are concertina sketchbooks. I've got videos on that here and on the drawing channel. But I thought, why don't I lay down, experiment with these, and then I can make it into a concertina sketchbook with sort of, it's already started with some marks on it, as it were. And yeah, so it's sort of like fun for me, and hopefully maybe, I hope you are making art along with me. Maybe you're exploring an art supply that's been in your drawers, or you've got some of these and you want to get them out and give them another go. Sometimes thrifting, or you might have certain areas you get actual second-hand art supply shops, so keep an eye out there as well, because people, or I don't do Facebook, but I know like Facebook Marketplace, all these some free cycle places, often you never know what's this, one man's junk is another man's treasure, that kind of people. Like I've given away art supplies. At the moment, the nice thing is, because I'm working with a non-profit, I can now utilise, if I get, and I'm doing reviews for brands, if I've got art supplies that I don't love, they can be used in the community at drawing events. So, and it's nice to give other people the opportunity to try things out, because try before you buy, or just see if there's a particular material you might want to invest in the future. The other way I know artists, when I've listened to some YouTube videos when they talk about, you know, wanting to try different materials, but if you're on a limited budget, maybe just buy the odd, you can often at very specialist art supply stores just buy one stick of something, and that will allow you to see if you like, you know, in a favourite colour, and then that will allow you to see if that material's for you. Okay, one other thing I forgot to mention is obviously what you can do is then have it nice and wet, and then come in on top, so you get that sort of, you don't have to dip which is probably, I assume, wasteful in some ways. You don't have to dip it into the water, because you're using it you've got the quality of it becoming very concentrated and wet on the on top of a sort of layer as well. And you don't really get, you do get wet into, so there's almost a little bit of here. Let's play around with that. So you can tell I haven't really fully planned this video or done a lot of research looking at other people's. This is also for my own benefit, to be honest with you, because, look at that. So yeah, that is actually, especially for a sort of a sketchbook background, or for a zine, I really want to play more with that. Yeah, I'm having a real play here. I sometimes think that's the only way to go, isn't it? Because I used to be the sort that I'd like, I have to research something, and then you don't actually get to do your own. Or, yeah, maybe do the opposite of what I'm doing, play and do some. Also, you don't always want to, like, necessarily one person's way or one artist's way of working may not work for you. Was it still like an artist? Combine, mix and match. So that's just, I'm playing about with, as you can see, where it's really wet. I don't mind really wetting this paper. As I say, this is like a 90. It was I can't remember what brand, but it is a pretty decent weight bulk purchase drawing paper that I feel actually can take. You know, it's not, well, let's try. moving. You can always, if something's really wet, do the drip effect. So we've got some nice, yeah, okay. I don't know why I haven't been doing more of this. And then you can play with the fact, you know, you've got two sort of primary colours, and then going over with this blue. You can also, what I'm actually rather enjoying for the first time, I've been using them, I'm not sure I've ever used them until now in a sort of a very delicate sort of, very, what's the word, diluted way. I think I was drawn to them because I thought, oh, I like concentrated, highly pigmented colours, but sometimes depending on our mood, maybe especially for a background wash, this is actually, I kind of like this really, hopefully it's in shot, sort of light effect that you can get. This could, again, why I guess a lot of urban sketchers and landscape artists love this material is because I can see this would be a great base layer for your mixed media, or then purely going on top again with the Inktense, layering up the Inktense. Obviously there's other water-soluble materials as well that we all know and love. I guess my go-to, if I'm going to be totally honest, my favourite water-soluble crayon, like a lot of people, is the Neo Colour 2. Expensive, but I think you do get, it's highly pigmented, they're lovely to use, and they last as well. So I think it's easy, sometimes I get guilty of this, like you buy sort of a much cheaper supply, and then it's not pigmented, so you end up having to use the whole pan just to, you know, you use it up much quicker, or it goes off, it goes a bit funky, or has a weird smell. Again, I don't know if there's any, sometimes even with the oil pastels, I've noticed a slight more expensive oil pastel, you get an odour, but there's no, I have a bit of a stuffy nose to be honest with you, but I believe that normally there's absolutely no, I feel like odours or these. Okay, let's have a go. So as you can see, it's a bit wet. So the other fun effect is that you can then, if you draw quite heavily, even if you, it's not like with, say, a Neo Colour 2, where sometimes you blend in the whole, you've got a bit of the, especially if you let it dry a bit, you've got the drawing underneath, which could be a fun effect for much looser drawings as well. Let's see, I mean, this is all abstract, isn't it, this week, that I've shown you my sort of landscape interpretations. What we can do now is let's have a go at a floral. So I'm just going to draw, and I'm going to show you what I mean in terms of my indoor sketchbook. I've been doing some, if I've got house plants or flowers, I sometimes just sit at the kitchen table and quickly try and draw them. And it is fun to use different materials because often I'm drawing the same house plant again and again. So I was using Inktense pencils for some studies, and what I found that I was doing with the Inktense pencils a little bit, so I'll just show you how I was working. Oh, that's not the colour I thought it was going to be. It's a little bit, one thing I would say with this particular set is, obviously there isn't, I guess you can make your pastel-y colours through being super light, but it's not, the colours are pretty, like you haven't got a really light, sort of delicate lilac or a sky, a very pale sky blue. They seem to be more on the deeper, I guess, spectrum, or I assume there's scope for, there is a white in the set, so if I put lay some white down, I'm just going to experiment with, I'm not sure I've done this before with, so this is a first for me. The title is How I Use Inktense. It's almost like how I am discovering, right, in this video to use Inktense. Okay, so what I was doing, what I've been playing with, the other effect I like to do is leaving some of the drawing, and I was able to get much more delicate drawing with pencils, to be honest. And then I had fun with turning some of it, because I can, it's water soluble, whereas, you know, obviously if you just draw with a wax crayon or with your standard, even good quality colouring pencils, you can't do this. So it was good fun. And then, as I say, oh no, that has all blended away. Can I get rid of that? I don't know if you can see what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to like erase my drawing. If I want to bring it back though, what should I bring it back with? Should I bring it with? Because I can go on top. Okay, so what I might show now is, let me just, for my own purposes, they are a little bit obviously grubby as well, but obviously the pencil version are less so. But are they, I haven't let this, as you can tell, I haven't let this dry. There is this a clean? It's not. Okay. So you can see that they do actually, well, the way I've used them, lift a little. However, let's do a little comparison. I have on my desk, let's move on and use some mixed media effects on top of these. So I've got this is like some gouache and Japanese watercolour. I basically reuse these palettes because I like the size, and if I've got old cracked tubes of paint, I just stick it in these palettes. So I think this is an old Cotman watercolour. So yeah, you could argue that if you are just going to be, as you saw me earlier, just using these to paint with, I mean, it's probably cheaper to get some watercolours if you just want to use them as paints. But you can see, and I haven't let that dry, I really need to let the watercolours dry. But as we all know, a lot of the time with the let's have some gouache. I've got some gouache mixed into this. With watercolours and with gouache, you use them, they do obviously lift up, and I'm going to assume that, and you can layer, just put my gouache, just testing out the different paints on top. And then let's move on to, could layer up with acrylics. So they have been a nice little addition to a lot of my mixed media work and my loose work. And I do find with these blocks, it's far harder. With the pencils, it's far easier if you want a nice tight drawing. Actually, the other thing I'd like to try them out for is sort of loose portraiture. And yeah, with the pencils, I could probably do more detailed pencil work too. What I'm really looking at is what happens, I'm trying to let some of this all dry. So you can see it is pretty permanent. That isn't as when I first put that on, if I put it on top dry, I assume I could then utilise the fact and make that more water soluble. It does have a permanence, whether it is as completely waterproof after it dries, or, you know, I think there is a little bit of ability to lift some of the paint up. But okay, this is watercolour. I mean, the thing with watercolour is, yeah, it's obviously less permanent. What else could we do with this? I'm sure I'm not thinking of some other fun ideas. I could try out my neon. I always love a bit of neon. But this will be a fun backdrop. hopefully I'll get to show you if I do. So what I'll do is like, yeah, if I'll make it into a concertina sketchbook, I should probably also have a think about, because the great thing with these concertina sketchbooks is you get to use, do I have any on my desk? No, that's a different type of zine. I prefer, as I say, to make more of a longer one, because then you can use the back and the front and none of the paper is wasted as such. All right, so that's me having a little play this morning. I hope wherever you are, you're making your art, having a good time. And yeah, let me know how you like to use, if you've got this supply or a water-soluble crayon, any other fun effects that we can do with them. I can't remember about light fastness. I think, are they pretty light fast? I did look it up a while ago, but I can't remember now. For my purposes, a lot of the work I've been using them for is in sketchbooks, but now I'm using them a bit more. I would like to use them on watercolour paper and put them back on the wall. So yeah, I'll have to check that out too. Thanks as always for watching my videos. Yeah, I'll be back next time. Thanks again.